Welcome back. It's Art's Live Show, and we have a very special guest with us today, Mr. Roger Axtell. And thank you so much for coming on. I had the pleasure of working with Roger recently out at the Country Club for a writer's, what was it? It was a writer's?
It was a showcase for writers in town with a benefit to the hospice, the local hospice group, and I was emceeing it.
And Mary McBride was there, and Veronica, and they've been guests on our show. And as in the same scope that they have a lot of wonderful pieces of writings out of you as well. And I see 9 sitting in here on the table. And welcome, by the way, to Art's Live Show, if I didn't say that.
Thank you. Well, you'll remember out there I talked about the fears of a writer.
Yes.
People will ask me, what do you fear most as a writer? And it's not rejection. It's not writer's block. The thing I fear most are rummage sales. Now, you figured that out immediately. You know, in our neighborhood, we have rummage sales. And my wife persuaded me to go, and you know what they do? They get the card tables out there in the driveways with all that junk on that they want to get rid of. And I walked over, and I happened to look down. There was one of my books. My newest book. Well, you know how they price things at a rummage sale. 25 cents. Marked down to a dime. So I asked the lady, I didn't tell her who I was, but I said, I'm interested in this book, but what's wrong with it? She said, what do you mean, what's wrong with it? I said, well, you've marked it down from 25 cents to a dime. She said, somebody's written in it. I'd autographed the book. That's what I did. So I have now confessed my greatest fear in life.
That and playing the harmonica.
Yeah, that and playing, which we may not see. This may be the only show in which there's a silent harmonica player.
Well, you had 30 years that you had spent with Parker Penn.
Right, it's been a great life, yes.
Left there as Vice President of Worldwide Marketing.
Yes, very good, thank you.
And so internationally, you've done a lot of travel.
Right. Parker, as you know, is very international, so it came with the territory, and we lived and traveled overseas for about 25 years. And I always wanted to write a book, and so Parker published the first one. I got into the publishing business through the back door. And then, as you know, as everyone knows, Parker was sold in 1986, and so I was able to take early retirement, and I just kept going.
That's wonderful. Well,
What was your first one? Which one was your first book?
It's this blue book here. It's called Do's and Taboos Around the World, and it's done very well. It's a big surprise. We didn't know that we were tapping into an audience as wide as this. It was very lucky. It's a big commercial for Parker pens, frankly. I'm just a pen salesman, that's about all.
Isn't it truly a marketing person's job in a way?
Well, it is, sure. But we say Parker pens make great gifts, and they write in any language, and they're highly respected and thought of as quality and very expensive overseas. And so business people, anyone who travels, you should carry a few gifts along with you, and Parker pens make very good gifts. So that's how we got the first book going, and much to my amazement, that's up to about 300,000 copies. Show you what a smart businessman I am, though. I don't own that book. That's owned by the Parker Pen Company. A bunch of people out in Gillette in Boston still collecting the royalties. But that was done in about 6 different languages, and so.
Wow. Wow. And it obviously spurred on the rest of this. Did you have any formal training in writing?
I was a minor in journalism. Yeah, I did some radio news writing and writing during the years. And then when I joined Parker in 1956, I was in the public relations department. But that discipline allowed me to keep journals as I traveled, and I just kept making notes to help my memory. And I acquired a lot of information about toasting and gift giving and protocol and etiquette and behavior and language problems and dress and all the rest of it.
I like the way you referenced my sweatshirt.
Well,
by the way, in the true spirit of Christmas, you know, we all get Christmas gifts, right? I'm going to guess you've got your fair share of ties, correct?
Of course, sure.
Well, I got my shirt for my children and have not found very many appropriate places to wear it, although I say that with a little disgrace. I should have.
That's very nice.
But here we are, kids. I love you and thank you for the gift.
That's
so
nice.
For the gesture of dress.
That's the most proper protocol of all. You honor your children for their gift-giving abilities. So at any rate, that's how we got into it, and one thing led to another, and it's been a great run. It's kind of a second career, a retirement career, and that's led to the speaking circuit, and that's been very enjoyable. But
how much of the information in the books is mistakes that you made when you were...
A lot of them. But that's the whole idea. we Americans tend to be what is known as ethnocentric. Now, you're a perfect specimen of it. You were telling me earlier you came from Canada when you went to high school here. People had this impression of you that you lived in an igloo and that your parents were lumberjacks.
Lumberjack or fisherman.
And the first year was tough because you were in a new culture. And we Americans have a little problem with this because, as I say, we're ethnocentric. We tend to think the axis of the world goes right down through America. And everything revolves around it. So we'll do a little demonstration if you're up to it. Okay.
Sure.
You haven't seen this, so this is... All right, my whole point is we do things without realizing it. That's our ethnocentrism. A lot of things that we do. For example, if you applaud. If you're right-handed, you pound the right hand down into the left. If you're left-handed, you do it the other way around. That's just the way you do it. Now, cross your hands like this. Notice which thumb is on top. When you cross your hands, you will probably 90% of the time put that thumb on the top because that's the way you've done it. Now cross your arms. There are 7 different ways to cross your arms. The way you do it is the right way for you. The way you do it, see, you're different, each of you. Now don't ask me what this means.
I'm an innie and she's an outie or something like that.
Don't ask me what this means. This is anthropology. But what it says is we get into the habit of doing things without realizing it, you see. So now you go to the next step. When you meet someone overseas, we're going to play a little role here.
Okay.
We're traveling overseas. Let's stand up. And we come up and we meet, and I say, I'm Roger.
Hi, I'm Dave.
Dave, Roger. Okay. In those 5 seconds, we have done 5 bits of very American behavior. We did it automatically, just like this. That's the way you do it. First thing we did was shake hands.
Shaking hands.
Right. If we'd been in Japan, to greet one another, they bow to one another. Americans say, I'm not going to bow to anybody. I'm an American.
But been in the music business, haven't you?
But in Japan, that is a gesture of humility and respect. So I see nothing wrong with that. So they bow. In India and Indonesia and Thailand, they don't bow, they don't shake hands. They do the namaste. It's called the way, like this. And what they're saying, get this, I am praying to the God in you. Now, you'd beat that for a greeting.
That'd be scary, wouldn't it? Huh?
In other parts of the world, there are more exotic greetings. In parts of Central Africa, they spit at each other's feet. Don't worry, I won't do that.
That happens to you quite frequently here.
In New Zealand, Maori tribesmen, they rub noses. In Tibet, when they greet one another, they stick their tongues out at one another, like that. So shaking hands is not necessarily the only way to greet someone. Okay, that was number 1 of the 5 things we did. We did 2 other things. Your parents taught you, just like mine, when you shake hands, a good firm grip, right?
Good business
Absolutely.
shake. Sure.
I'm sorry, in other parts of the world, they're saying, if you're going to shake hands, don't give that. That's impolite. That's rude. You give a gentle handshake.
Oh, I see.
Like this. You right away you're saying it's a dead fish. He doesn't know how to shake hands.
No.
So then the other thing we did, direct eye contact.
Yeah.
How many times have you heard a teacher or a parent say, look me in the eye? I'm sorry, all over Asia, they are taught not to stare at someone, to avert their eyes. The Native Americans in this country, the Indians, were taught never to look people in the eye. So right away, 3 things that we do, we shook hands, firm grip, are not necessarily universal. Those are 3 things. 4th thing we did, David and Roger. Very American, first name, you jump to first names. You're in Switzerland or Germany or Austria. You were bicycling over that way.
Yes.
You don't jump to the first names. That's very impolite. You wait until you're invited to it. That's right. So that's the 4th thing. What's the 5th thing? And this is the most difficult thing of all. The space.
Yeah. Okay,
the space.
Yeah.
We Americans and Central Europeans have got bubbles of air around us. And that's our space. And we don't like anybody to intrude.
That's right.
It's just, get this, it's an arm's length away. We stay an arm's length away from people.
Give or take. I see a lot of people who come walking up to you and want to talk to you like...
Well, that in Latin America, in Latin America or the Middle East, we would have stood just like this, very close to one another. They have smaller bubbles. In fact, they have a thing there you'll see called the conversational tango, where there's an American and a Latin. So we're standing like this, and the Latin comes up, and this is the way you would stand. I'm an American, so I step back.
And then I can come back.
That's right.
Sure, I see it.
They do this tango all the way around the room.
Sure.
So now, all right, we're Latin American and we're Middle Eastern. I first learned this. Now here I am from Janesville, and I'm in Saudi Arabia walking down the street with my customer. He's got a long robe on, and I'm trying to sell pens. He's very important. And you know what he did? he did this.
Sure.
Now, I'm fairly perceptive. And
I'm
I
a pretty
said,
stable guy, so I'm okay with this. I'll tell you that.
but I said right away, I said, oops, there's some cross-cultural communication
Sure.
going on
Sure.
here, but I didn't know what it was. And what I started to do is just what Dave and I are starting to do right now. I started to sweat like mad. Here I am in Saudi Arabia walking down the street with some guy holding my hand.
Well, now we're in Janesville doing it. How's that?
Well, you're a good sport. You want to sit down. You want to get out of this.
I'm pretty much ready, yeah.
Because you are sweating.
I am. I'll tell you, you're right.
But I hung on. I was lucky. I found out later that if I had pulled away, I would have offended this man.
Certainly. I
Because in
understand that.
his country, this was nothing more than friendship and respect.
Right.
Now, the problem is when he comes to Janesville, and we walk down the street.
We're going to be doing, you guys will be on TV doing it, right?
Boy, you do sweat a lot, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
But
Wasn't ready for that,
these are
Roger.
just some of the things that, that you learn over the years. When you travel, you suddenly realize the way we do things, our language, our protocol, our etiquette, our gestures and body language, the way we do these things is not necessarily the only way to do it.
Sure.
And so we Americans have got a big learning experience to do.
Well, there's some difference, too, between a business atmosphere also versus somebody who's just traveling. I'm assuming that many of the places that you called on for business had a good indication ahead of time of what they were going to have in store with you, too.
Well, many of them had done their homework, and so
Yes.
you go to Japan.
Probably more than
Exactly.
is done here
And
many
that's what's
times
been so
because-
flattering, because a lot of my books have been translated, because they want to learn this, and they want to know what to do in Venezuela and Thailand, just like we want to know. So
Right.
it's a complete universal learning experience. So you're quite right. We all want to do it, and in business particularly, because in many parts of the world, the relationship between people is just as important as the contract.
Certainly.
We're taught in this country, time is money, get the contract signed, get out of there. Business is not to be wasting time. But in many parts of the world, mainly Asia and South America, the Middle East, they are relationship focused. And so how you behave and if you respect their culture is very important.
So you've taken basically a lot of the things we've been talking about here, and this is basically the nuts and bolts of what you're writing about here.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to make the translation here as to from the things that we're talking about here and what you've written.
Yeah.
Okay, because one of the things I always like to ask people is if you had a two-sentence advice for somebody young who wants to write or wants to do something, what would you say to them?
Well, obviously, go out and get the experience. I mean, do what I guess I had to do. I was lucky. I had no idea I'd be writing books as a result, but go out and live it, like you've done a lot of travel over in Europe on bicycling. That's the best part about it. The kids today love. I'm on the board of the University of Wisconsin Board of Regents, and we're trying to get more study abroad programs. We're trying to get the kids, because they are terrific, especially in college. They go over there and they just soak it up, and they're very pliable, and they're very respectful, and they're very aware of what's going on, and they come back and it's a life-changing experience. Just think
Very
about
true.
it. If you want to teach tolerance, just send a kid overseas, and as soon as they get off an airplane, they are a minority.
Yes.
Their language is different, the customs, the religion, and all the rest of it. So you've got to live it, which is, and we don't get the chance. In this country, to get to a significantly different culture, we have to go to Montreal or we have to go to Mexico, and that's a long way away. So,
Yeah. What's your favorite book?
well, I guess this book on gestures has been a lot of fun. This has got, I don't know, about 300 gestures. And now this is not an anthropological thing. This isn't the stuff that you read about interpreting juries, and if they're doing this, they're defensive, or if they scratch their nose, they're lying. I'm not into that at all. I'm not a scientist. But these are the socially accepted.
It's the etiquette.
Right. Well, and the main thing is that a lot of common gestures that we have, and I can go through them, are very offensive in other parts of the world. So I'll do a couple of them for you. The best single known American gesture is this. Okay?
Okey
Okay.
dokey. Yep.
But in the south of France, this means zero, means worthless. So I took a hotel room one time, and the concierge says, "How's your room?" I went like this. See? I was telling him it was worthless. It was terrible. In Japan, this means money. It's the shape of a coin. So you could be doing business with a Japanese businessman and say, let's sign the contract. And he says, the guy's making a sign for money. Does he want some money under the table? And in Brazil, don't do this. In Brazil, this is very rude.
I was going to say this is a family show.
I've seen that one before.
Richard Nixon, when he was vice president in the 50s, got off the airplane in Brazil, and he not only did one of them, he did two of them. Like this picture was in all the newspapers. And there's this, of course, which, now what does that mean to you? Peace? Peace. It also, V for victory. Think of World War II in England, and you can do this in England, and it means V for victory or peace, but don't do it this way. This in England means roughly the same as this in Brazil. So.
Excellent, excellent.
You can go on and on.
How many kids are going to be doing this tomorrow? You know.
Well, that's the problem. You know, V for victory. Yeah. Even this one is a problem. Thumbs up. It's perfectly all right, except in Australia, Nigeria, and Russia, and there. This is the same as this in England and this in Brazil. So you've got to be very careful.
We're getting quite a language display here.
Well, it's been a lot of fun, and 60% of our daily communication is nonverbal, by the way.
Right. So
your emotions are visual, so to learn some of this when you're traveling is quite important.
Well, you've been gifted to be a writer.
Well, I've been very lucky, thanks to Parker Penn. And it's just being an observer, really, more than anything else.
And this is all transcribed into speaking, and you and I have had many discussions.
Right.
I've known Roger for a while, and actually we live somewhat close to each other as well.
About a block away, right.
And we've had discussions as to the speaking, how you've moved into the speaking, and there's some great analogies between what I do with the band and what you do with the speaking thing, and we drew on some of those before we started. Largely, you find yourself in a routine,
right?
Just like I've played, boy, if I get to play Mustang Sally one more time, boy, oh boy, it hasn't changed over the last 15 years, and I'm going to guess there's parts of your speech thing that
you tend to fall back on the things that work, and as you know, the challenge is to energize an audience. And you also, I've watched you, you perform, you have such energy, and you look like you're having fun. And that's the main thing. Great fun. And that's what you try to do on the speaking circuit. And once you can get out on the circuit, it's very challenging because you get to big conventions and anywhere from 100 people to 2,000 people, and the big image magnification behind you and all this stuff. But fortunately, you're using a lot of the same material.
I did want to point out, too, that you also do have the book Do's and Taboos Around the World for Women in Business.
Right.
So there is a book specifically for women, too, which I think is extremely important.
Women make excellent international business people because they are more aware of the nuances, the etiquette and the protocol and the respect. They make outstanding international business people. I was part of the conspiracy 20 years ago. We wouldn't hire women for international business because we thought that it was too dangerous for a woman to travel alone, and they wouldn't be accepted. But it's just the opposite. I say you can't stop them now. I mean, legally, ethically, morally, you cannot stop women from being, and they make excellent business people.
Clothing? That you cover that in here?
Very
well,
conservative,
I'm sure for women,
obvious,
because
yes.
it would be very conservative.
Very conservative in all ways. Don't do anything whatsoever that could ever be considered flirtatious. There are a bunch of rules in there. The biggest fear of women in international business is the sexual approach, that they're going to have problems with that. And there, in certain countries, where male-dominated countries like Japan and Saudi Arabia, it can be a bit of a problem. But the solution to that is to be very professional, to know your subject, to know the competition, to be qualified, to have credentials, and then all of a sudden, in those male-oriented countries like Japan and Saudi, you become a third sex. You're not male or female. You are a person there that knows the subject, professional, can make decisions, has got qualified, got credentials, and so on. So that's the secret.
You've taken that aspect out of it,
right?
In essence.
Exactly.
Sure. Certainly. Again, I want to thank you for coming on.
Well, this has been fun.
Yes, this is wonderful.
And I
We
get to
appreciate
ask this question as well. If you're stranded on an island, you get 2 books and 2 records. What are they going to be? I was going to surprise you with something.
Yeah,
I had to come out of left field for this one.
I'd get your tapes from the Blue Olives.
Oh man!
Because I admire, you know this, I admire those of you in music. It's still an unfulfilled ambition, and it still might be tonight. But I have wanted to kind of get back into music a little bit, and you've helped me. David is a wonderful teacher, and I don't play the guitar, but he still helped me a lot with the basic structure of the blues, so I'm still learning. But as far as books, gosh, there's been so many that have influenced me over the years. It's hard to say which one.
Anyone stand out for you?
Oh, gosh. Not right at the moment.
I'm glad. I've actually stumped a few people with it because they didn't. I don't tell people I'm going to ask these questions.
You're going to keep me up all night now, wondering what book I should have said. I should have said the Bible or something like that. But.
Well, it's to each his own. I probably, if somebody were to actually ask me the question, unfortunately, I'm not in that chair, but I wouldn't know how to answer the book.
I am reading a book right now that I'm enjoying very much, and that's the biography of John Adams. It's about that thick, and it's by David McCullough, and it's a very worth reading. I'm enjoying it very much. It gives you great insight into some of those people who founded our country.
Mm-hmm. I get a question. Just let's just take this. You book-wise, something of any recent past?
I've always got 2 or 3.
Do you? I had a feeling you were.
I'm reading one now, Sylvia Boorstein, which is Pay Attention for Goodness Sake. It's a Buddhist on meditation.
Wow.
And a mystery, some gory, James Lee Burke. Terrible, gory,
but this is interesting.
I usually have, as I say, 3 different ones going on, and something of human interest otherwise. So.
Aren't we lucky to have a library like this in town?
Yes, we are very fortunate. You had mentioned Canada. My sister comes to visit me frequently from Toronto, and the first thing she wants to do is come to the library. She just loves it here, just to be able to sit, and there's so much to choose from, and it's such a wonderful surrounding, being able to sit by the, look out in the water and just enjoy the windows, and it's really something special that we have here.
We're very fortunate in this community.
I tell you, my book is a book about this thick that is about Dreamweaver. It's web design book. It's
about
a text
Dreamweaver.
It's web design, coding for web design. That's
see.
my reading. I read text manuals. It probably says a lot about my personality. It happens that way if you're a tech geek, I guess. Once again, Roger, thank you very much for coming on.
It's been very enjoyable. I really
so
appreciate
much.
this, and I think you're doing a great job of bringing the arts into the community and stressing it, helping a lot of people, helping a lot of young entertainers at some of the local spots in town. I think that's wonderful.
And 2 seconds worth of discussion on your harmonica playing. Okay, I'm not pushing the issue, but I do want to make the point that playing the harmonica has never been the focus of your life.
Hardly.
Hardly. Okay. I mean,
I do it in the closet, and the cat gets up and walks out. So.
But the simple point of it is that you do it at home, and you enjoy doing. You enjoy it. You have a great love for it.
And I could take it with me on my travels. It's just only about that big, and you can play in a hotel room, and you don't bother anybody. It's a little tough to
Is there anything about that internationally, that playing the harmonica
No,
is good or
I
bad?
never confessed it. I don't know if anybody knew it.
I get the point I really want to make, though, is that you can be at any point in your life,
Right.
age-wise, position, whether you're a CEO, a VP, a writer, you can enjoy the arts and participate in it.
Absolutely.
That's the point truly I want to get at, is that everyone can participate in this.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to be a public performing artist to be part of
To
it.
just have the enjoyment.
We all enjoy it, and it comes to, it touches something from our heart. And there's not many things in this world that actually get there.
Great satisfaction out of suddenly creating something out of nothing. And as you know, I'm into now playing along with Lee Oscar, the harmonica player, on CDs, and I just do it all by myself, and sometimes it sounds good and sometimes it's just terrible. But he keeps telling me that it's okay, keep trying. But no, I'm very much I say intermediate. I'm not even sure on that, but it's brought great enjoyment back into my life. It's relieved stress and given me fun to get. I used to play in high school, you know, clarinet and saxophone, stuff like that, but you can't carry a saxophone in a suitcase. So.
Now these days, especially on a plane,
That's
right?
right,
It would
that's
be.
right.
Well, we've got to wrap our show up here to some degree. We do need to cover a couple quick things. I want to get these in real quick because we forgot these in what's going on in the theme of our Christmas show, our last show for the year. The Kinder Concert presented by the Beloit Janesville Symphony Orchestra featuring an instrument petting zoo. This is on the 22nd of December. It's at Craig High School. This is where kids get hands-on instruments. I mean, they get to see what goes on for real. I mean, you can see stuff on TV, but it's another thing to touch it, to play, you know, to get a better understanding of what it is. And the Beloit Symphony Orchestra is doing this, and it's a great thing. And I think you should get your kids out there. You can get information on this at 363-2554. Also, Christmas at the Tallman House, the Lincoln Tallman Restorations special Christmas event was December 8th, but I know that they have some things up there, and you're going to want to probably go out there and check that out as well. We covered the oxymorons, absurdly logical quotes, didn't we?
You did.
I just wanted to say it. That was about
I
the
know
way.
you did.
We're going to probably hear a little bit more yet from Andrew Carolla. We thank you for listening and checking us out on Art's Live show for this year. It's been our pleasure and our honor to be here and doing it. Carrie, thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Would not have done this without you. It's been wonderful. Dwayne, standing behind the camera. Dwayne, thank you. For without Dwayne here at JATV 12, I tell you, this would never happen, and I'm forever indebted to Dwayne for everything he does.
The other volunteers?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Let's not forget all the other folks. I mean, Judy running the station, doing a great job. Let's not forget Jamie,
Dave,
Anita,
Dave.
and of course
Number
Donna.
People, yeah.
Donna Wake. You can, by the way, there's a couple pictures on the website of back scene stuff. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but there's some pictures. There's a picture of Donna and Anita, and I posted it on the website. So please do check that out. And anybody and everybody should take the chance to volunteer here at JATV 12. This is your opportunity to get involved. You can sit at home and complain about problems, or you can get off your butt and do something about it. And that's what we're doing, and we hope that you will too. And support live music and the arts. That's all there is to it. Right?
Thank you. It's been a fun year. Enjoyed ourselves.
Keep it up.
Thanks, Roger. About that, Roger Axtell on harmonica. tuning in to Art's Live Show. We'll see you in 2003. Well, I'll tell you, you know what? Hug and love your kids, because there's nothing better in the world than that. Teach them music. Come on out and give us an instrument on New Year's Eve, would you? Roger, thanks again. I really appreciate you coming on. And giving it up on the harmonica, too.
Thank you very much.
Once again, we hope to see you on New Year's Eve. It's Holiday Inn Express in Janesville. See you in 2003. Because the arts is where it's at.